Okay, so I just want to premise this because it's not something I feel like it's talked about so much, and the more I hear about it, the more I put my head into a wall. But it's something that needs to be addressed, and that's dapping. When I assume the 3 captains got together at some point and reviewed SOPs, created the entirety of the system, right?
The DAP talk.
Is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. And this was the start of a new department, right?
Correct.
Dapping system is a brand new system that was brought in to try and control and hold officers accountable.
Correct.
But like any kind of system, most systems need to be tested, because if it's not, then the flaws go out into the field and it creates problems. And I think that's what's currently happening. Not that some of the things that people have been DAP for, I'm saying shouldn't be held accountable for. Like just for example, Cornwood's excessive force. I stand by that DAP. That makes sense to me. But and York brought up the point, you've got someone like Duncan who's sitting on, I think, 4 DAPs at the moment, all 4 minor DAP. Let's say he gets to 5. He gets one more DAP, he gets a 24-hour suspension. And let's say he continues being Duncan and gets a couple more DAPs. 1 DAPs. All those 1 DAPs lead up to 10, and he's under reviewed because of those 1 little DAPs. York brought up a very good point, and that is the 60 days, right?
Yeah, I mean, the DAP system is harsh.
Let's say a serious
I'm not gonna sit there and lie to you,
violation,
chat. It's designed to be harsh in the beginning.
Excessive force should stand. But let's say I talk back to Slack and he gives me a DAP. That is held in the same regard as excessive force and doesn't fall off after 60 days. So York brought up the good point, and I think Bones agrees as well. Why doesn't these smaller infractions, let's say, fall off after a shorter period than the serious infractions?
I mean, excessive force isn't 1 DAP.
I'm saying excessive force, serious DAPs, should be held for a long amount of time.
Do you want a minor DAP system and a major DAP system?
Yes, that's what he wants. He wants basically for each category of DAPs, being minor to moderate to major to cardinal, each one has a separate timeline as far as
frame that where it falls off. Why on earth do those 60 days of 1 DAP stand against an excessive force DAP as well?
So, for example, if someone fails to submit their paperwork, get 1 DAP, we're holding that 1 DAP for 60 days.
Just make it 30 days for everything. There you go. Problem solved.
Violation have their own roll-off time.
If you reach 10 DAPs in 1 month, I mean, you fuck. Honestly, you just around way too much.
1 DAP.
It's like the punishment should fit the crime.
Punishment does fit the crime, though, by getting 1 DAP and not 3 or 5.
I get that, but someone is going to learn quickly. If I talk smack back to you, Turner, I'm going to learn that in a shorter amount of time, and I feel like shouldn't weigh over my head as much as putting a bullet into somebody when they're already down on the ground.
Or like wearing the wrong HAL uniform. I get your perspective on that, right?
How many DAPs do you have there, Bones?
None.
How many DAPs do you got there, McNulty?
1.
How many DAPs do you got there? Wait,
Ruby?
York. I'm sorry.
Me?
York,
I don't have any. I hope I don't have any.
I hope they don't ask me this part.
How many do you have?
0.
Okay.
How do I have the motion here?
You have the most?
You don't want to stay.
I have 3.
Okay, well, I have 1 as well.
I definitely deserved 1 at some point.
Well, so here's my point. These DAPs are only issue for 3 people in the department, and they're making constant mistakes. They're intended to be harsh. They're intended to keep people in check. They're intended that way. We know they're harsh. They're supposed to be harsh. We're aware they're harsh. They're very harsh. And we are aware, some people feel it's making them hard to work at times or think they're going to lose their job. Duncan made a comment the other night. So be it. I actually haven't talked to Slacks about that. Well, no, we have talked about it in the past. Is a system where they could take a 30-minute class to refresh over something they've been DAP for to remove a point. I just spoke to Flop. He's going to put together a system, a generic system that would allow people to take a 30-minute class with a senior plus who would remove a DAP off of their record, so it could give them some breathing room. They're intended to be harsh.
How often can you remove a DAP?
That's something we'd have to work out. I foresee it being, either every 2 weeks or every month. I don't want it to be something where people are just constantly waiting to take the class or taking the class every 2 weeks to just constantly take DAPs off. I think it should be for cases where people have 5 or more DAPs. It shouldn't be open to people who have 1, 2, 3 DAPs,
How do we feel about maybe adding community services as well? For something like that.
I am all for, and I this is the only way I can word this, creative punishment. But I want to see consistency over DAPs. Slacks, just to put it respectively, I don't want punishment to be like, you do this or the DAP.
I don't think community service fixes their problem. They're getting a DAP removed because they're going to put some extra time in to better themselves.
No, I'm saying instead of DAPing somebody every single time, right?
You don't need to DAP people every single time. 85% of what we talk to people about as seniors as command can be used as a learning scenario and a teaching lesson, right? You don't have to DAP for everything, but when you start to have repeated and negligent situations where people are grossly disregarding what their job is and what they should be doing, then you do need to put a mark on their wrist.
Okay, but grossly disregarding in what way?
Mag dumping somebody on the floor.
Okay. Again, my same point. I very much believe those that do that, DAP should be held over their head for a long time. People talk about how these DAPs are giving them anxiety. Good, like running in the halls.
Failures to submit a report. How about that?
Yes, very small DAPs, right? If I fuck up a couple of times, right? Let's say I've had a bad fucking week, right? 2 weeks. And I've had a couple of bad reports. I'm now sitting on 4 DAP points, and I'm like, okay, and I'm back on the horse. I'm like nailing it with the reports left, right, and center.
You mean you got DAP 3 different times?
Yes.
One.
Yes.
Yeah, don't you think after the first DAP you'd be like, I better go back and fix that?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't be held accountable for those DAPs, but I'm saying in terms of the drop off for those DAPs versus the drop off for excessive force or the higher end of major DAPs and incidents, the drop-off time between the 60 days should be lower for minor infractions than it should be for higher. And they're
30,
held over their head.
45,
that should be a
and then
constant
major
reminder
60.
of the respectfully, if you're creating a system where people are being held accountable and it's a system that can't be tested without live action testing, shouldn't it be reviewed and looked at to see if you can do it better?
Absolutely, and that's what we're doing now, isn't it? By adding a way to take it off.
I think that is the best way to go about it.
That's step number 1. I think what you're trying to say exactly is make minor, 30 days, moderate 45, and then major 60 is what I'm trying.
I feel like you're starting to lose the effect of DAPs, and they should all be one DAP system.
Then reduce 60 days to 45 days, I would say, or maybe 30 days.
We're already adding a way to remove DAPs.
I just don't think the class is going to work very well. I don't think the class is going to work, man. It's not going to work.
Kind of reiterate what I spoke
it needs to be simple.
with you about Turner.
We're making it too complicated.
I'm open to change. I'm not open to 10 changes at once or multiple changes at once. I want to make a minor change or change to it. I want to put it in action. I want to see how it operates. Give it a little bit of time. Still got problems? We adjust it more. So let's put this into action. Let's see if this can alleviate any of the stress on people.
Which part into action?
The classes.
The removal.
Yeah, the removal.
Classes. It wouldn't be open to people with 1 DAP. Why would you need that at all, right? Or 2
Because
DAPs,
that
or 3
1
DAPs.
DAP is staying for 60 days. I don't.
Correct.
Why should? That's insane.
1 DAP is nothing.
Somebody like Duncan, who has 4 DAPs because he's accumulated all these small ones, that's huge. It's already weighing on people.
Well, with all due respect, Duncan does it himself, right? A lot of these self-inflicted wounds that happen sometimes too. But I get what you're saying. You're saying 1 DAP of insubordination or not following the chain of command or wearing the wrong hat shouldn't have an everlasting effect than somebody discharging a firearm excessively to a suspect, right? Those shouldn't hold the same kind of weight as far as length. I get what you're saying. But how do you make a system that is simple yet fair?
I personally think it's going to be very tough. And then I say, I'd like a class. And so you put the class together the next week, boom, my points are gone.
1 point.
So what's the point in taking the class if it's just 1 point?
Because you remove a point.
Then I'd like a class every day this week so that I can get rid of all of them.
No, but we limit that to 1 every 2 weeks. People's
Hear me out. Turner,
I understand that.
20, 40, 60. 20 for minor, 40 for moderate, and 60 for major. I think that's a very good compromise.
I think the classes in theory might work, but in practice, I genuinely think the best long-term fix here is the shorter drop-off period for things that aren't as serious. I genuinely think that's the best fix.
That's how it feels, Snow.
You
It's
got no-
also
you got
who's
no
gonna
leg
have
to
time
stand
for the
on anymore.
scheduling and all that. It's a lot of mess,
Especially
man.
if
it's another headache within
Because
itself
at
to
least
get everybody
looking
show
at the
up and
system,
do this and do
people
that.
see better.
Maybe in the future, but I
Does
don't
it
think
make
right
sense
now.
to me?
This is probably the best answer I've heard so far.
I have to
if
agree
I'm
with
being
that.
completely honest.
I think I'm with McNulty on this.
That's
20,
my
40,
personal
60.
opinion to you
I'm gonna
guys,
push for
but-
24, 60. Honestly, I think it's actually a good compromise. Yeah, I mean, based on this conversation, I think that my idea that I'd like to propose to the rest of the captains would be 20, 40, 60. 20 for minor, 40 for moderate, and then 60 for major. That way, there's if you escalate things as a police officer, it has a heavier consequence. And if you, wear the wrong uniform, you're not gonna be deaf for 60 months, only for 20 days, right? And at least gives a little bit of a wiggle room and flexibility, so officers don't feel like they're always afraid. But at the same time, there is accountability.
That's all. I think that's all we wanted to do. So.
Yep.
You guys handle it however you guys want to handle it. It's been brought up.